As the Doctor has been showing Clara the wonders of the universe and all of time and space, he's also been researching who this impossible girl is. Well, it's high time we found out. So, onward and upward. We begin with the Doctor showing Clara how to pilot the TARDIS. He puts it on basic so she can learn more easily because she's a human, and I'm thinking that technology patch that she got when she got downloaded, that's faded, so the Doctor's giving her a crash course in TARDIS piloting. Unfortunately, this coincides with a space salvager run by two siblings and their android. And when they grab onto the TARDIS with this weird tractor beam, it causes the whole thing to go cattywampus. Also, some sort of egg-shaped device that we saw one of the brothers pack up lands on the TARDIS. Clara picks it up and burns her hand, imprinting part of a sentence into her skin. But no time for that, because the ship is now leaking toxic fumes. And when the Doctor confronts the brothers, they intend to eject the whole thing into space. But the Doctor promises them the salvage of a lifetime if they help him. So, when they don some respirators until the Doctor pumps the toxic air out of the control room, he locks them all in, gives them a word of advice. Never go into a strange man's spaceship, because now he sets the TARDIS on self-destruct and tells them that the salvage of a lifetime is in fact Clara. Either they help him save her, or they blow up. And so, it's a mad dash through the corridors, dodging these strange, charcoal-looking creatures that the Doctor did not know about, to find Clara, who, after getting thrown out of the control room on her search to find it, finds the library and a tome concerning the Time War, and inadvertently learns the Doctor's true name. Well, his original name. His true name is the Doctor, as far as anyone else is concerned. Eventually, they end up in a corridor just below the Eye of Harmony, the fragment of a star in the process of exploding. And unfortunately, being inside that room is caustic. They can only spend a few minutes in there, and then they'll burn. Unfortunately, these strange charcoal creatures have cornered them all. Furthermore, the TARDIS is a little tetchy because earlier, one of the brothers stole an egg-shaped circuit from the TARDIS, thinking it might be valuable. It is, but it's more valuable where it is rather than on the open market. Ultimately, the Doctor realizes that time is bleeding in the TARDIS. He and Clara see fragments of the past, and he realizes that fragments of the future, in the form of these charcoal creatures, are from that very future. They're created when Clara and one of the surviving brothers and the robot, which is actually a third brother who lost his eyes and vocal cords in an accident, got them back in robot form, and also lost his memory of being named captain by the trio's father. And also Clara, all four of them, one brother being killed by the doctor's future charcoal self earlier. Turns out, being in the cloister room underneath the Eye of Harmony, that starts causing them to change. But the doctor tries, and ultimately fails, to save the brothers from causing their own time to be written in stone. The first creature gets knocked away, and then the brothers, having ignored the doctor's warnings, stand together and get fused into the very creature they just defeated. Luckily, the doctor and Clara manage to get away and manage to find the engine room, which at first looks like a chasm next to the door, when in reality it's a leap of faith. You see, the TARDIS is inadvertently keeping them at arm's length, and they have to press on. And the doctor, having learned that Clara accidentally found out his name, starts ranting about how he can't figure her out. How she was Oswin Oswald on the Dalek Asylum, and Clara Oswin Oswald in Victorian London. But Clara is very confused about this. And while the doctor promises to explain, right now they've got to take a leap of faith and leap into the engine room, which is in the process of exploding, but it's partially frozen. And Clara laments that there isn't just a big friendly button that the doctor can push to fix all this. But then he realizes there is. That egg-shaped device, if it can explode at the right time, it'll reset the timeline, and none of this will ever have happened. And so he and Clara head back to the control room, which had briefly separated our heroes via copies of the control room, and find a crack in space-time, which the doctor leaps through, and before he disintegrates, he throws the device back to himself and Clara as they're being pulled into the spaceship, which is what caused the damage in the first place. And while the doctor misses the throw, or misses the catch, I should say, Clara picks up the device, and it burns her. And the reason it burned her is because the doctor had burned the words "big friendly button" into it, which had slowly manifested in Clara's hand in a reverse order. That's where he got the idea. And remembering Clara's lament about a lack of a big friendly button, the doctor pushes it, and in a flash, everything is reset. The three brothers, who are still sort of teasing their cyborg brother, although one of them shows a little bit of humility and tells the other one to stop it. And after having a wash, Clara and the doctor go on their merry way, with Clara not remembering what she found out. Next, we head back to Victorian London. Well, not London. Another part of England in Victorian times, with the Paternoster gang investigating a rash of dead bodies washing up in the river, dyed bright red with looks of horror in their eyes. And this one guy who wanted to investigate what happened to his brother, revealing to Vastra that the supposed phenomenon of images being preserved in a dead person's eyes actually do happen, but only with massive levels of body corruption. Luckily, this crimson horror, as it's later labeled, is just that. The body that the guy delivers to Vastra before passing out, because he's not used to seeing weird things, and that's his shtick for the whole episode. One of the images turns out to be the Doctor. So, it's up to Vastra, Jenny, and Thrax to infiltrate a sort of commune where an old woman named Mrs. Gillywater and her daughter are collecting young, healthy, attractive-looking people to wait out the supposed apocalypse of a corrupt world. Miss Gillyflower's daughter's eyes being one such victim. Turns out her dad was a mean drunk and blinded the poor girl. But the Gillyflowers promise a utopia. And it turns out the Doctor and Clara, having overheard some of the commotion when one of the dead bodies shows up, decided to investigate earlier, posing as a couple. And as it turns out, they were dipped in this red liquid, which apparently is designed to preserve a person in stasis for a certain amount of time. Unfortunately, because the Doctor is not human, it didn't work on him. It worked on Clara, though. And once Jenny, posing as a prospective disciple, manages to find the partially petrified Doctor and restore him, he locates and restores Clara, who seemingly was dead, according to the Paternoster gang, when last we saw them. And the Doctor doesn't really have an explanation. So, with the whole team assembled, they confront Mrs. Gillyflower and find out that besides being a brilliant chemist and engineer, decades ahead of her time, turns out she's going to ignite the apocalypse. And the red liquid, that's actually venom from a prehistoric leech that Vastra's people had to confront when they were in power. Turns out one leech managed to survive all this time, and fed up with the world around her, she formed an alliance with this intelligent creature in order to rid the world of what she saw was corruption, in order to preserve it for a select few. Sadly, she's brilliant, but the years have turned her to the dark side. She could have been an amazing helpmate to future generations if the Doctor had taken her into the present. But she's too far gone. She even experimented on her daughter to see how to reverse the effects of the venom, which is the true source of her blinding. And she doesn't exactly take that well when she finds out. Of course, her not 100% loyalty to her mom started way back when she realized the Doctor wasn't dead and kept him alive as a sort of pet. She called him her monster. And personally, I think the Doctor should have taken her into the future to get her eyes fixed, but that's just me. Eventually, after taking her own daughter hostage with a revolver and shooting at the Doctor and companions, Mrs. Gillyflower launches her plan into action. A rocket. 33 years before the actual invention of modern rockets, will fly into the upper atmosphere and explode, releasing venom from the leech that'll destroy all life on the planet. And that's how Gillyflower's new Eden is going to be born. Luckily, Vastra and Jenny, separated earlier from the group, collect the venom, and so the rocket explodes harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. And when Gillyflower tries to shoot at our heroes, she loses her balance and falls to the bottom of the rocket silo, which was posing as a smokestack. And sensing her coming end, the leech departs, only to be squashed by the blind daughter. And in her dying breath, Gillyflower begs her daughter's forgiveness, which she is denied, thankfully. And so the day is saved. The leech is dead. The last of its venom will be stored in a vault, kept safe away from everyone else. And the Paternoster gang will help the daughter, Ada, start her life properly. Because just because she's blind doesn't mean she can't be a productive member of society. Meanwhile, the Paternoster gang respectfully demand an explanation as to why Clara is still alive, or whether or not she really is this Clara from the past, or potential future. Unfortunately, the Doctor doesn't have an explanation yet. But that's not what is the crux of the story. It's not what leads into the next episode. Rather, when Clara gets back to the present, she finds out that the kids she's been babysitting for the past couple episodes, on and off, they've been researching her. They found pictures of the Doctor and Clara on the Russian sub, and at the haunted house, and even one of the previous Clara from Victorian times. And while Clara has no explanation as to why there's a picture of her, only it's not really her, they do blackmail her into letting them aboard the TARDIS for at least one adventure. And so they go into the future, where the human empire has expanded to 100 galaxies, or was it 1,000? Anyway, it was a lot of galaxies. And they go to a planet-sized amusement park that, as it turns out, is shut down. And the guy who owns it, the best he can offer is a temporary turning on of one of the attractions, using gravity manipulation to pretend to be at the Apollo moon landing site. And also a robotic chess game where you match wits with the shell of an old Cyberman from Cybus Industries. Turns out there was a war against the Cybermen like 1,000 years ago, I think it was. And this guy has some of the last remaining shells from the Cyberiad, as it was called. Only this Cyberman isn't actually a real Cyberman that's functioning. It's got a remote operator, a little fella by the name of Porridge, played by Warwick Davis. So you know he's not going to be wasted as a character. Unfortunately, there's also some military personnel there, stationed to watch for potential cyber activity. Only they're not really proper soldiers. They're more of a punishment brigade. They're basically screw-ups. They're the kind of soldiers that would show up in a National Lampoon's episode. But anyway, they're not the antagonists, thankfully. Turns out there were miniature cybermats skulking about, left over from the wars. It seems every time the Cybermen were defeated, they would upgrade and become more dangerous. Far more like the Borg from Star Trek. And sporting my favorite modern Cyberman look, second only to one we'll see later. These ones are sleeker, they have less pronounced cheekbones, their faces are more classic like the ones from the early Troughton era, their armor's less bulky, and they've gotten rid of the stupid logo on their chest. But anyway, the miniature cybermats that are dubbed cyber mites by the Doctor, turns out they are capable of upgrading the old cyber shells into proper cybermen, and they start taking over. One of the reasons the amusement park was shut down and is left to rot is because there were disappearances. Children were going missing. And after the cyber shells that the owner of the amusement park collected upgrade and take over, they take him over too. And they take over the children, and even take over the Doctor. They implant into his head, and now he's got a double act as a cyber planner dubbed Mr. Clever, and himself. And Matt Smith does a very good job of playing a dual role. He's like a sinister version of himself as the cyber planner, and a desperate to escape version of himself as himself. So it's up to the punishment brigade, who gets placed under the command of the Doctor, who is pretending to be a high muckety-muck in the Empire. So the leader of the group listens to him. And first order of business, destroy the Cybermen. Second order of business, don't blow up the planet in order to destroy the Cybermen. Because since the Cybermen are so good at upgrading now, one of the standing orders, if you find too many Cybermen on a planet, blow it up. Basically, amputating a limb to save the body. And that cost an entire galaxy its life, as Clara finds out from Porridge. We also hear him have a conversation with the leader of the Punishment Brigade, and it seems he might be an old general from that war. So, his story is yet to be told. But unfortunately, things go from bad to worse when more Cybermen show up and snipe the leader of the brigade before she can undo a past wrong and destroy the Cybermen by taking out the planet. Luckily, Clara has a remote detonator that she can use once everyone is safe and sound. But unfortunately, that gets broken as well. Meanwhile, the Doctor has to play chess with the cyber planner in his head in order to save lives. The plan is, winner gets the Doctor's brain. Of course, the cyber planner is not going to keep up his end of the deal, and the Doctor knows it. So, when an entire army of Cybermen show up and start taking out the soldiers, the Doctor pretends to throw the game of chess in order to get the children released from the cyber planner's hold. But then he declares that he will win the game in 3 moves. And the cyber planner starts pulling power from the other Cybermen in order to process how the Doctor is going to do it. And we find out that he'll cheat, because besides the one gun that actually works against the Cybermen until they upgrade from it, they've also got these hand pulse devices that can take out a single Cyberman, only you got to touch the back of their head, and it's very difficult to do so. But the Doctor, in his 3 moves, uses his sonic screwdriver to soup up one of the pulse devices and shock the side of his head with the cybertech on it, which distributes the cyber planner across the other Cybermen and gives him control of his body back. And then he goes to try and activate the implosion device to take out the Cybermen once and for all. Only he can't do it. There's only one person on the planet left who can activate the device. The Emperor, who was porridge the whole time. He decided to pull a leader in disguise trick that other characters have played before. I can't name them, but it's like when this one leader went among his troops before battle to see their mood. Star Trek referenced it, actually. But it's the Emperor who can save the day. He activates the bomb, and when he does, his royal spaceship warps in and transmits everyone to safety. And they watch the fireworks from the throne room. Then, because he and Clara had some pretty decent conversations, he offers her the title of Empress, wife of the Emperor. She's flattered, but she just really doesn't want to be an empress. And after joking that he could have them all executed, like a proper emperor would, he laments that being emperor is rather lonely. See, he doesn't want the power. That's why he deserves the power. Anyone who craves power doesn't deserve it, and the reverse is true. They who reject power deserve the most power of all, because they know what to do with it. So, with the day saved, the Doctor takes Clara and the kids back home, and after scanning to make sure there was no cybertech surviving, the Emperor's spaceship leaves with a morose Warwick Davis on the throne. I'd certainly vote for him. Only to reveal that among the debris is a single cybermite, meaning that the Cyberiad might make a return. But not today, as a condemned psychopath has revealed to Vastra that something has been discovered, a secret concerning the doctor's grave. So, Vastra starts a psychic conference call. She uses special chemicals in a candle that she has to put herself in a trance along with Jenny and Strax, and she ensures that Clara gets a note telling her to go somewhere quiet and light the candle, only Clara refuses, so Vastra put the same chemical in the very note she's reading. So Clara is going to be in the conference call whether she likes it or not. This is where my tongue stops working. And even River is able to join from the shared collective consciousness in the library. So they find out that the psychopath also had coordinates, and the coordinates are for Trenzalore, that place that was mentioned earlier, where the doctor is going to answer the question that must never be answered. Doctor Who? Unfortunately, the conference call is interrupted by the Great Intelligence. Yes, it's back. It's still taken the form of Mr. Simeon, played by Richard E. Grant, who would have made an awesome Ninth Doctor, because he already did. And what's more, the Intelligence has new minions, wraiths, dubbed Whispermen, who are intangible to other people, but are tangible to them. So they can kill without having to worry about being killed. Unfortunately, this causes the Paternoster gang to be taken hostage. And River, who keeps a telepathic link with Clara, follows along as Clara goes back to the doctor and tells him where to go and what he needs to do. And so reluctantly, the doctor heads to Trenzalore and the site of his grave. Now, what's weird is he shouldn't have a grave, because you're supposed to incinerate a Time Lord's body. But I guess someone didn't get the memo, because it's there on the burned out ruins of Trenzalore, and a military cemetery containing countless dead bodies. And even River's grave is there, although she shouldn't have a grave. Yeah, it turns out that was a secret entrance into the tomb of the Doctor, which is actually the dying TARDIS, which is leaking the bigger on the inside phenomenon and causing it to grow. Eventually, the Whispermen chase the Doctor, Clara, and secretly River to the entrance. And the Intelligence manifests itself inside one of the Whispermen and makes its demand. Open the tomb by speaking his true name, or his companions are dead. So, River, who can still be heard by the TARDIS, opens it. And inside the remains of the control room is a tear in the fabric of time. The Doctor's corpse, basically. And so, after being defeated in Tibet, London again, And London again. And London, what is it, the 5th time? After his multiple defeats, he's decided to take his revenge on the Doctor and finally gain what he believes is peace. By stepping into the time stream, he'll rip his own form apart and scatter it across the time stream, and thus destroy every form of the Doctor, from beginning to the end. And that's what happens. The Doctor collapses. Jenny and Strax are wiped from history. Well, Jenny's wiped. Strax is killed by Vastra in self-defense because he reverts to his classic Sontaran self. Meanwhile, Clara has a moment of clarity. She's been getting bits of memories of a timeline that was erased, and finds out that she's died before, and she'll die again. She realizes that there's a causality loop. The reason she's met the Doctor before is because of this moment. And that little sentence, "Run, you clever boy, and remember," it's because of this moment, which she tells the Doctor. Calls him a clever boy, tells him to run, and remember her. So she jumps into the time stream as well, and fixes the damage that the intelligence did. But it doesn't kill her, because River, who is connected to her psychically, is still there. And turns out the Doctor can actually see and interact with her. She was supposed to pass away peacefully as part of the library memory where she's stored. Only it hasn't happened yet. Not until she gets a proper goodbye from the Doctor, which he gives her. And then he does something drastic. While the day is saved, the Paternoster gang is restored, the Doctor is fine, but Clara's not here. So the Doctor jumps into his own time stream and really messes it up. He finds her in a corner of his past, seeing various past selves run past her. And in order to give her enough mental clarity to keep going, he gives her the leaf where she started. But then she sees someone new, someone who's not the Doctor. An enigmatic figure that shouldn't be here but is. And the Doctor admits that it's him, but it's not the Doctor. It seems the name a Time Lord chooses for themselves is like a promise you make. But this one broke the promise. This person swears that what he did without malice, in the name of peace and sanity. But not in the name of the Doctor, according to our Doctor. And with disgust, he turns away and leaves this new figure, this new Doctor, played by John Hurt. But that story is for another day. Until then, this is Mr. J signing out and reminding you to always be clever, to run, and to remember. Alonzi.